Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. So in our syllabus, the next topic of our syllabus is more on the self or the self in a social world. So this is your friend, Brother JoArs Alferez. So I will share with you this lecture or presentation of the next topic once again, the self in a social world. So according to Benjamin Franklin, there are three things extremely hard, steel, and diamond, and to know one's self. So, you know what is hard, what is steel, and a diamond in knowing your own self. That's according to Benjamin Franklin. And you know it's Benjamin Franklin. We are going to explore the interplay between our sense of self and our social world. So this is a relationship of ourself and to others, the social world. How our surroundings shape our self-identities. So this means that this is all about the influence of the others, especially outside in ourself. Then, how does self-interest color our social judgment and motivate our social behavior? So, here we are as an individual, how we relate with each other, then especially the social judgment, then part also of our motivation in our social behavior as an individual. So if you look at the drawing, your relationship with others, then how you motivate your social behavior from a child then to the adulthood. From our self-focused perspective, we overestimate our consciousness, positive or negative. So once again, from our self-focused perspective, we overestimate our conspicuousness, the positive or the negative, or kung ano yung makikita sa atin. Okay? The noticeability in us as a person. So there are also effect or the positive or the effect. Sinasabi dyan, it can be a red carpet effect, which means if it is a red carpet, you know already na medyo social yun, di ba? So, this spotlight effect means that we tend to see ourselves at the center stage. So, that's all about the spotlight effect. So, we see ourselves at the center stage. Kung baga, parang bida tayo. Then, so we intuitively overestimate the extent to which others' attention is aimed to us. So you look at the lady there, maganda, she is in a center stage, feel yung pagkatao niya. Then, that's the so-called spotlight effect. Then, the spotlight effect, this is the belief that others are paying more attention to one's appearance and behavior than they really are. So, ibig sabihin, parang may kaplastik ka, no? Kasi nakikita siya sa iba. Siguro all of us, we experience kung nasa entablado ka, iba yung dating. Kaya nga sinasabi, this is the belief that others are paying more attention. Kasi ikaw nasa gitna. Kumbaga, you are the center of attraction. Ang behavior mo, nakikita, maring ang appearance mo. Kasi doon nakatutok sa iyo. On being nervous about looking nervous. Ayan. Meron siguro tayong lahat dyan. This is now, of course, the negative effect in knowing or looking at in ourselves. So, the negative, this is more the presentation of the anxiety or the effect. So, we often suffer an illusion of transparency. Illusion lang yan. Okay? Yung palagi nating expression. Then, if we are happy and we know it, then our face will surely show it. So, ibig sabihin, in ourselves, if you're happy, sinasabi nga, makikita yan. Kaplastikan ba? Katotohanan ba? Are you sincere? So tayo lang din nakakaalam niyan in knowing ourselves. Then we presume that others will notice, di ba? Especially if you are on the spotlight. Then we also overestimate the visibility of our social blunders and public mental slips. An example of this, when we accidentally insult someone, we may be mortified or ashamed. Everyone thinks I'm a jerk. Okay? I think you experience this one, insulting others. Minsan, ikaw yung nahihiya. Tayo yung nahihiya. Okay? But what we agonize over others may hardly notice and soon forget. So, yun din yung realidad na mangyayari. There is an experiment of Levetsky and Jilovic in 2003. Know that people overestimate the extent to which their internal states leak out. So, yun yung kanilang experiment. Then, people who are asked to tell lies presume that others will detect their deceit, which feels so obvious. Kung magsinungaling ka, okay, sinasabi dyan, they presume that others will detect their deceit. Kaya nga, makikita man din yan sa pagmumuka kung nagsisinungaling ka, kung totoo yung sinasabi mo. If you look at the drawing there, nagsinungaling ba? Tinatakpan ba yung mukha yung estudyanteng yan? Then many people who find themselves having to make a presentation report being not only nervous but also anxious that they will seem so. Kayo, naranasan nyo yan? Pag nagre-report, kung face-to-face tayo, siguro nanginginig kayo, naninervyos kayo. Okay? So, yun yung isa sa nakikita sa experiment. Then, and if they feel their knees shaking, sabi na natin, hands trembling during their presentation, their presumption that others are noticing will continue their anxiety more. Kaya nga, there is a need to overcome also this. With my experience, nung una-una nasa college ako, pinapa-report ako, and of course, ang hiya nandoon, nanginginig ka. Okay? Kaya nga, minsan, paspangdagdag pa ito. Pero minsan, it can be parang introduction lang dan hanggang maka-overcome ka with that shyness, with that nervousness. Yes, totoo yan. Nanginginig ka. Trembling. Especially kung may presentation dahil hindi mo alam kung anong gagawin mo. But nowadays, good that we are guided. Like this, we have a PowerPoint presentation. We have the social media. So, medyo nabawas-bawasan. Unlike before, in our time, meron ka lang ginagawa na visual aid. Then, basa-basa with matching kurog-kurog. So, ngayon, medyo nakakatulong din itong social media. So, yon ang experiment ni Savetsky at saka Jilovic in 2003. So, to find out, they invited 40 students to their laboratory in pairs. Savetsky assigned a topic such as the best and the worst thing about the life today and asked the person to speak for 3 minutes, and the other person gave a 3-minute impromptu or unprepared talk on the different topic. Pag ganito, mas laso. Impromptu, then unprepared topic, pinasalita ka. Okay? The best, ito yung sinasabi na topic, the best and worst things about life today. Then, if you are not prepared, if you are not updated to the relevant issues, magka-problema. But, if you are updated, mabilis lang kasi marami kang masasabi. But, sometimes, the nervousness, you'll be shaking, trembling. So, yon ang resulta ayon sa experiment. Then, afterward, it's written how nervous they thought they appeared while speaking from all or not all, from 0 to 10, and how nervous and the other person seemed. So, what about the result? People rated themselves as appearing relatively nervous. Out of 10, 6.65 according to the experiment, which is average. But their partner, they appeared not so nervous, which is 5.25 out of 10. Then a difference great enough to be statistically significant. Then the 27 of the 40 participants, which is 65%, 68%, believe that they appeared more nervous than did their partner. So, yon yung nangyari sa experiment ni Savetsky at sa kay Golovic. So, yon. Maaari bang gawin natin ito sa klase? Pues pwede naman gawin natin as also parang a replication of the experiment. But alam na natin ang resulta because of this experiment ni Savetsky as well as Golovic. Then the spotlight effect and the other related illusions of transparency are but two of many examples of the interplay between our sense of self and our social worlds. Sense of self, sarili mo, and of course, our relationship to others, to the social worlds. So here are some examples. Social surroundings affect our self-awareness. When we are on the only member of our race, gender, or nationality in a group, we notice how we differ and how others are reaching out to our differences. And I think with your experience, nung first year kayo, napunta kayo sa ating university, iba-ibang background, iba-ibang ating relihiyon, iba-iba ating lahi, ang ating tribo. Napansin nyo? So, self-awareness as well as the surroundings. Nakuha ninyo yung example na ito? Anong naramdaman mo sa sarili mo? Anong naramdaman mo sa iba? Okay? Then later, we'll be able to overcome the nervousness, the shyness, at maipakita natin ang iyong pagkaikaw sa sarili mo. Then of course, kung makaibigan mo yung iba, then the self-interest colors of our social judgment when problems arise in a close relationships such as marriage, we usually attribute more responsibility to our partners than to ourselves. So, ito naman yon in the other aspect, especially in a married life. Okay? Sarili mo, your husband, then of course, your relationship to the community or to the social world. Kaya nga, we usually attribute more responsibility to our partners than to ourselves. At saka yung iba, kung may mga asawa na kayo, you also experience this example. Your marriage, your family, as well as your relationship to the community or to others. When things go well at home or at work or at play, we see ourselves as more responsible. So, ang ganda, especially nowadays that we are having the social media and ang dami-dami na nating alam. So, if things go well, so ang ganda. Pero, it takes more responsibility. So, yun yung mga example of the spotlight effect. Then, we have the self-concern motivates our social behavior, which is true. Then, in hope of making positive impression, we agonize about our appearance. So, may mga ganun ba? Pangit kasing sinusuot ko. Pangit kasi ganito ang pagkalagay ng ganito ko. Hindi kasi. So, may mga ganun tayo. Pero sinasabi, in hopes of making a positive impression, we agonize about our appearance. So, social relationship help define our selves. I think you would agree this one. Once again, social relationships help define our self. So, the way we behave, the way we act, then going to the outside, going to other people, to the relationship. So, sinasabi, malaki itong tulong, itong social relationship. Kaya nga, very, very important in the family na dapat wag ipahiya ang bata. Kayo, na-experience pag pinahiya kayo, di ba minsan ang bata magkakaproblema in the relationship with the others, especially sa school. Pagdating sa school, pinapahiya din sa teacher, so the self-esteem nagkaproblema. Kawawa ang bata. And I think some of you naranasan ninyo yan. Elementary, high school, pinagalitan sa pamilya, pagdating sa school, dinagdagan pa, kasi kaya nga, ang sinasabi dyan, social relationship help define our self. Kasi nangyari sa parang minamaliit kasi ibang tao. So pag hindi mo ma-overcome yon, sa malaking problema din yon. Kaya nga naapektuhan yung self-esteem. Kaya yung iba ayaw lumabas sa kanyang lungga. Manatili dyan, kasi ganito, kasi ako, kasi mag self-pity. Okay, but once again, very very important, take note on this, social relationships help define our self. Malinaw yan. Okay? In a varied relationship, we have a varying selves. Okay? Example, another dito. We may be one self with mom, another with friends, another with teachers. Kita ninyo? Relationship with your mom. So, maaari kang may makukuha doon with your friends, of course, with your teachers. Pero pag may problema yun, especially the relationship with your mom, you cannot open up doon. Noon na-open mo sa mga friends, then ang mga friends, mga BI, magka-problema ka. Then, most of all, teachers are our second parents. So, therefore, yung iba talaga, di ba? Problema sa pamilya, problema sa love life, problema sa relationship sa community, doon sinasabi sa mga guro dahil may tiwala sila. So yun yung sinasabi, we may be one self with our mom, with our friends, and with our teachers. So the self, you look at this diagram. If you are at the center, the self, tingnan yung self-concept. Anong pananaw mo sa sarili mo? Who am I? Okay? The self-esteem na binanggit natin. This is the self-worth. My sense of self-worth. Halaga sa aking sarili, sa aking pagkatao. Then we have also another, the social self. So my role as a student or a family member or a friend, my group identity. So that's our relationship to others, which also nakakatulong in defining ourself. Then, the self-knowledge. How can I explain and predict myself? So, yun yung apat na factors na tatingnan natin na malaking tulong din sa ating pagkatao, sa ating sarili. Para maging totoo tayo, para maging ma-develop ang ating pagkatao mismo. To become a total person, a total being. Okay? So, once again, tandaan nyo ito, your self-concept, you're the self-esteem, the social self, the relationship with others or as a student, to the family, your roles as a student, to the family, as family member, friend, then the self-knowledge, how can you explain and predict yourself? Paglalabas ka, ganito yung appearance ko, ganito yung dapat, the way I behave. Then, when you talk about self-concept, the who am I, the self-concept, the specific beliefs of which you define yourself. And I think that's self-explanatory also. The way how you define yourself. That's your self-concept. How and how accurately do we know ourselves? What determines our self-concept? You know who you are, your gender, whose feelings and memories you experience. Sir, ang tanong, paano sir kung hindi ko alam identity ko, LGBT member pala ako? So hanapan mo din yan ng paraan kasi yun yung pagkatao mo at alam mo mismo kung paano yan. Kaya nga yung iba, until today, some are not yet accepted in the society when they talk about this. Okay? But it's up to you. Pakita yung pagkaikaw mo, your self-concept of who you are. Okay? Then discover where this sense of self arises. The neuroscientists are exploring the brain activity that underlies our constant sense of self-being. Okay, so yun yung about the neuro naman. Then some studies suggest an important role in the right hemisphere. One patient, so another example or experiment, one patient with the right hemisphere damage might be failed to recognize his own face. May mga ganun ba? That he owned and was controlling his left hand. Kung neuroscientist ang titingnan, and which is may patunay man ito. If you look at the mirror there, sino yan? Akala ng cat, nagiging lion siya, naging tiger siya. Then vice versa, kung ang tiger naman yung titingin, parang cat siya. So nagdepende talaga yan. So this is more on the brain activity. Okay? How you know yourself, yung the self-concept of who you are. Then the medial prefrontal cortex, a neuron path located in the cleft between your brain hemispheres just behind your eyes, seemingly helps stitch together your sense of self. It becomes more active when you think about yourself. So, sabi nga, social psychology, this is more on psychology. Kaya nga, tingnan yung self-concept mo. Alamin mo of really who you are. Baka pag panalamin mo, oy, kaya nga napansin nyo ngayon itong photo love, ang saya-saya sa karamihan. Young people and the old ones, the adult, ang saya-saya nila. Pero sabi ko nga, hindi na lang ako sasali dyan. Bakit kaplastikan din yan? Ako ba yon? But sabi naman ng iba, well, this is just an application. Pero ngayon, nabalandra na puro gwapa, puro maganda. Ang pangit, gumanda. Okay? Kaya nga, well, this is an application, this is social media. Pero remember this concept, the self-concept of who you are. Kaya nga ngayon, napansin ninyo, mga profile picture, doon na, photo love. What do you think of that? I think you can react. Ikaw ba talaga yon? Or dahil lang sa app na yon? That's the point there. Once again, know yourself. Anong sabi nga ni Benjamin Franklin? There are extremely three things. Hard, steel, and diamond. Kaya nga mahirap din. Kaya nga, iwasan siguro natin yung kaplastikan. I think naintindihan niyo ito. Then, there are elements of self-concepts. Are you self-schemas or possible self? So, ito yung two elements of the self-concept. Ano itong schema or schemas? Schemas are mental templates by which we organize our worlds, our perspective, our perceiving ourselves powerfully affect how we perceive, remember, and evaluate other people and ourselves. Yung schema, mental, as we organize our worlds. Okay? The self-schemas that make up our self-concepts help us organize and retrieve our experiences. So, once again, itong schema sa kakatulong, the experiences, i-organize natin. It can be positive, it can be negative. If it is negative, it's up to you na i-level up mo yon. Use it na magiging positive. Use it na magiging strength mo yon in order na makita mo of who you are, yung self-concept mo. Then we have also the possible self, the other element of self-concept, the possible selves. These possible selves include our visions of the self we dream of becoming. The rich self, the thin self, the passionately love and loving self. They also include the self we fear. Ayon, ito yung mga possible selves na minsan our vision is ibig sabihin what we want to be in our self. Panaginip na gusto mong okay yung sarili mo, payat yung sarili mo, compassionate, loving self ba, then they include also may takot din itong self na ito. Sabi ko nga, iwasan lang ang kaplastikan. Kaya nga itong rich self, dami application ngayon, binabagong pagmumukha, binabago ang ilong, not only the photo lab, pero ikaw ba yon? Yun yung tanong. Kaya nga minsan itong binabago yung ilang ilong, ang mata, ang lips. Sabi ko magabaan ito, this is God's creation. In the eyes of God, we are all beautiful. Pero ang ginagawa, kaya nga minsan yung iba, di ba? Nabali yung ilong kasi ano yung linalagay. Pag mainitan, magtiko ang ilong. So, that can be a rich self. Kasi sabi nila, kasi ganito, masaya ako, ang self-esteem ko na boast na, okay na ako ngayon. kasi feeling ko talaga na ito yung pagkatao ko. Ayun yung pananaw niya. Pero, well, kanya-kanya man yung pananaw of the self-concept, pero tayo, tandaan natin, baka kaplastikan yon. Okay? How much more yung iba? From the schemas to possible selves. Kasi noon, bata pa ako, bayot man ako. Ngayon, pag professional ko, kay bayot man ko, magpa-transplant ako. Gawin ko na ang aking, yung a man turned to be a woman. I'll go to Thailand kasi pwede man transplant. Pero, are you sure? Yun bang totoong pagkatao mo? Kaya nga, may mga sinasabi pag ini-interview yung mga transgender, I'm now happy, I'm satisfied, my self-concept ito. This is who am I now? Pag sure. Okay? So that's the point there. Sana, I'm not against the LGBT. Pero problema, pag binabago nga, totoo ba yung self-concept mo? Kanya-kanyang pananaw, pag silang tanungin, totoo daw, yung na sila na talaga yon, and they are satisfied. Na kung magkalabo-labo, kagaya yung isa, artista man yun, walang puwet, nagdagdag ng puwet, may pinadagdag, nagnana, ngayon, nagka-cancer, nagabaan, sabi ko, that's it. Okay? Yun yung punto na sinasabi ko. Okay? Then, the development of the social self. Take note on this. The self-concept has become a major social psychological focus because it helps organize our thinking and guide our social behavior. Take note ha, the social self help us organize our thinking, the way we think. Tingin natin sarili natin. Then, nagbibigay doon, of course, ng gabay sa atin in our social behavior. But, what determines our self-concepts? So, yun yung tanong. There are studies of twins point to the genetic influences on the personality and self-concept. But the social experience also plays a part. Among these influences are the following. So ito, may mga itong study. The roles we play. Anong papel mo na ginagampanan mo? The way we act, the way you behave as an individual, as yourself. Okay? Then, the social identities we form. Our relationship with others. Anong ipinapakita natin sa kanila? Then, the comparisons we make with others. Ayun yung iba. Sana ganyan na lang ako, ang ganda-ganda, ganyan. Kaya yung iba, gaya-gaya. Kaya nga minsan, kakita, espele kayo. Kung paano mananamit ang Korean. Ngayon, kita nyo, halos lahat Korean ang pananamit. Pag sure, influence yan. Okay? But well, I'm not saying na mali yun. Pero, kung nakadagdag siguro para sa iyo of your social self, wala naman sigurong problema. Pero kaya nga minsan, di ba, naglalakad, uy, gaya-gaya, di naman bagay. That's the point there. Pero feeling niya, bagay na bagay sa kanya. Problema niya yon. Okay? Pero sabi nga, the comparison we make with others. Our success and failures, tandaan din natin yan. Kung pinabago mo, successful ka. Pag na-failed yon, yung sarili mo, ito yung pananaw sa self-concept ko, okay masyado. Pag na-failed yon, ayun ang punto. Then how other people judge us? The way we behave, the way we show our appearance to the outside. Then, the surrounding culture, especially the surrounding culture. Nalalabag ba ang kultura? Itong sa self ko? Tandaan ninyo yan. And there are times now, sabi nga, ngayon, month of October, is intended for the Indigenous Peoples Month. And all of us are indigenous. All of us are IPs. Pero may kanya-kanya kaya tayong kultura. The question now, anong nangyari sa ating kultura? Pananamit, kasuutan, pananalita, lingwahe natin, tradisyon natin, mga kostumbre natin. So, yun yung punto dyan na dapat nating pagnilayan. The roles we play. As we enact a new role, kayo mga college students, ako as tatay, maaring sa mga business na salesperson, we initially feel self-conscious. And of course, normal yun, natural yun. For example, while playing our roles, we may support something we have not really thought about much about. Iyon ang pinakapunto dyan. Okay? Hindi ba ito nangyari sa akin? Bakit nagawa ko ito? Bakit ito pinapagawa sa akin? Yung punto din. Having made a pitch or on half of our organization, we then justify our words by believing more strongly in it. Role-playing becomes reality. Yun, maganda din. Marami, may itutulong din yan. Kagaya sa akin, noon, I want to be a priest. But hindi ako naging pari. So, nag-twist ang role ko now as a teacher. Una-una, of course, kinakabahan ka. But now, sabi nga, my role now as a teacher becomes a reality. So, sana magiging eksperto ako dito sa pagtuturo. Kaya na sana gambanan ko ang aking role as I play now as your second parent, as teacher. Okay? Then, the prisoner and guard, another example. Anong role, anong papel naman ni ginang gambanan nila? O, kagayan sa picture, may tagabantay, may binabantayan. But if you're a prisoner, pag mabait ka, hindi ka man siguro gagalawin. Sunod ka lang. If you are the guard, of course, pag astig-astig ka, ayun ang problema. Okay, guards and prisoners in the Stanford prison, this is in the other country, simulations quickly absorb the roles they play. Okay, that's an example of the role they play. What about the social comparisons according to Fistinger in 1954? The big fish is no longer a small pond. What does it mean? Others around us help us define the standard by which we define ourselves as rich or poor, smart or dumb, tall or short. So yun yung big fish is no longer a small pond. We compare ourselves with them and consider how we differ. Then, social comparisons explain why students tend to have a higher academic self-concept if they attend a high school with mostly average students. Yes, this is also true with this according to Fistinger. Okay? Nagdepende ba sa school? I think some of us, some of you are a graduate sa mga private schools. Comparing to the government schools, so the public schools, hindi ko naman sinasabing, pero may kaibahan talaga, makikita yan, ang kaibahan. The way they behave, the way they love themselves. Okay? So, higher academic, ulit ang higher self-concept, in if they attend to the high school and mostly average students. So, parang madadala ka kasi. Okay, then, and how the self-concept can be threatened after graduation when a student who excels, outshine in an average high school goes to an academic selective university. Kaya ngayon ito, wow, graduate ng school na ganito, napunta sa UP. Wow! Ibig sabihin, nag-level up. That's more on social comparisons. Graduate ng main PNP year, graduate ng main doctor na, graduate ng nasa PMA, graduate ng PMA. That's the point there. Okay, that's more on social comparisons. Okay? Then there are types of comparison. The downward comparison, from the word downward comparison, we compare ourselves with others doing us inferior. Much of life revolves around social comparisons. Example, we feel handsome when others seem homely, smart when others seem dull. Then, when we witness a peer's performance, maybe privately take some pleasures in peer's failure, especially when it happens to someone we envy and we don't feel vulnerable to such misfortunes ourselves, according to the study of Lockwood, Smith, and the others in 1996. So may mga ganon din. Ulitin ang downward pananaw mo, pagkumpara mo sa sarili mo with others doing as inferior, na mababa sila. So yun yung may mga ganon. Mas magaling ako sa kanya, ganito ako. Na, kung bigla laman nagtagumpay siya tapos ikaw nandito ka pa rin. Ayun ang punto dyan. Okay? Pero pag failure na talaga siya, ay kasi ganyan man talaga siya, mas lalo pang binababa. That's a downward comparison. What about the upward comparison? Social comparisons can be diminish our satisfaction. When we experience an increase of influence, status, and achievements, we compare upward. We raise the standards by which we evaluate our attainments. Example, when climbing the ladder of success, we tend to look up, not down. We compare ourselves with others doing even better. Kuha ninyong punto, the difference between the downward and the upward. Ako with my experience, of course, dati pobre ako masyado, taga-bukid ako, very inferior. Dito na lang ako, mamamatay dito. But, because of this upward comparison, may tinitingnan ka, tinatingal ang tao, sana maabot ko din ito. Sana ganito. So, maganda din ang upward, i-compare mo sarili. So, hindi naman ako mayaman, pero at least, hindi ako nanatili doon sa sa bundok. Nakuha niyong punto dito, yung the upward, example, climbing the summit of others, we tend to look up, not down. We compare ourselves with others doing even better. Kaya yung sa experience, yung nagmamaliit sa akin, hindi talaga ito makagraduate ng college kasi ganito yan, sobrang hirap, anong ipagastos nila, anong tuition, kasi during our time, hindi man libre ang public school. So nagsikap at naging matagumpay. Hindi naman matagumpay na mayaman, pero at least hindi kagaya noon na talagang ang liit-liit ng tingin ko sa sarili ko. So, it would be good yung higher comparison, not yung nasa downward ka. Then, in facing the competition, we often protect our shaky self-concept by perceiving the competitor as advantage. For example, college swimmers believe that their competitors had better coaching and more practice time. So, yun. Kaya nga, sabi ko nga, nasaan na yung nangmamaliit sa akin? Professional ba sila? Nakagraduate ba sila? But, hindi ko yun sila minamaliit din. Kasi ang punto dito, dahil sa kanila, dahil sa pagmamaliit nila, ang pinakapunto, nagtagumpay. Kaya nga, kailangan lang yung pagsisikap. Then, the self-concept now, so nandoon, nade-develop. So I think sana this is a lesson to all of you with that experience, with the example also of the study of Smith, Lockwood, and others. Then the success and failure. Self-concept is also fed by our daily experiences. To undertake challenges yet realistic tasks and to succeed is to feel more competent. Tingnan nyo ha. To feel more competent. An example, why female bodybuilders or practice martial arts? Kasi, sabi nga, kaya man ng iba. Kaya nga ngayon, yung ating contestant, sino ba yun na sumikat, pobre siya, pero naghanap siya ng paraan, naging successful siya. Okay, then, after mastering the physical skills needed to repel the sexual assault, women feel less vulnerable, less anxious, and more in control. Ayun. Kung kaya ng mga lalaki, kaya din naming kababaihan. Kaya nga may maraming sundalo at pulis na ngayon na kababaihan. Then the application, why what we pleases us teaches us. Okay. Then after experiencing academic success, students believe they are better at school, which often stimulates them to work harder and achieve more. According to Felson and Mars and Young in 1997 and 1984. So, sana hamon din ito sa inyo ha. Dapat magsikap talaga. Okay, then, people with a sense of self-worth are happier, less neurotic, less troubled by insomnia, less prone to drug and alcohol addiction, and more persistent after failure and more resilient. Or place the other world around. Okay ha, tandaan niyo ha, baba ka ngayon na failure ka, but that failure, kung gawin mo yung maging inspiration, it will also become a success. Take note on that. Then what about the other people's judgment? When people think well of us, it helps us think well of ourselves. Ano yung sasabihin sa mga tao sa akin, no? Na kapag aral, dapat magsikap ako ng mabuti para yung nagmamaliit sa akin, hindi ko naman sila mahusgahan, pero ito yung magiging gabay ko. Okay? Example, children whom others level as gifted, hardworking, or helpful tend to incorporate such ideas into their self-concepts and worth. Ayan, may mga ganon din. O, kagaling-galing na bata, sana ganon din ang anak ko, sana ganito din. Okay? Pero wag lang pilitin. Okay? Disidentify. If majority groups feel threatened by negative stereotypes, they may disidentify with those realms. Okay? Kasi ganyan yan sila. Yun, especially yun yung the minority nagsasabi, ini-stereotype ka, ninalagay ka sa box. Another example dito, with people's judgment, poor students, by teacher or parents, women, if women feel threatened by a low expectation of their driving, won't fight such prejudgment. They may identify their interest elsewhere or having an affair. So, yon. Dahil paghusga ng iba, ito na lang gawin ko. Minsan, may mali din. Okay? Then, the looking glass self. How we think others perceive as a mirror for perceiving ourselves. What matters for our self-concepts is not how others actually see us, but the way we imagine they see us. Another example, people generally freer to praise than to criticize. They voice their compliments, then restrain their gibes. Maybe, therefore, overestimate others' appraisal, inflating the self-images. So with that, I hope you learned something. Then what about this self and culture? Remember, sinabi natin kanina, please, ating kultura, preserve that culture because it helps a lot, especially in our self-concept, yung totoong pagkatao mo. So thank you very much. God bless everyone. I am your friend, Brother JoArs Alferez, Dalaygon ang Diyos.